right, so despite Jassaproxy not wanting to talk about Candace Owens, I guess we're going to talk about Candace Owens anyway, because torturing Jassa is tantamount to bibliography. So, I don't know why I said that. Not like because bibliography sounds like I'm trying to build a sources document, and Candace doesn't know what the fuck one of those is. I tried to go like, it's the whole cleanliness is close to godliness thing, so my brain immediately went to, yeah, Bible. What's a word that sounds Bible-y? Bibliography. Anyway, yeah, let's talk about Candace Owens. We've got a little bit of fan art first, though, and then we'll get into that. Hey, I love when the cat cam just stops working. That's my favorite. Anyway, this first piece of fan art is from Satoki Nishikawa. It's been a while since I've made fan art, so I've gone back to what got me started doing art. Coins. Sorry, Suris, you'll never escape the coins. You're right. And you'll never escape my wrath. But, you know. Hey, that's the wrong button. I have too many buttons on my stream deck. I tried to do the zoom here, and it went to my deck view from my Magic the Gathering channel. God, that's so annoying. Anyways, next piece of fan art we have here is from a Nubian Slime Suris as Alistar. With me going, it's good to be back on the air. Anyway, as always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, drop it into the fan art section of the Discord, and past that, let's get into the actual video that we're going into. What is it, Ravi? Yeah, I see Suris in caps, and I don't know what I'm looking at. What is it? Is it the... Is that what it is? You fucking degenerate? Is that what we're doing? Are you doing permanent flesh, Suris, again? I don't know if I'd call it permanent, but I know on videos where I'm specifically going over Project 2025 stuff later on in the stream, I don't think I want to use the VTuber avatar for that one. Not that I don't think it is appropriate. Whichever version of myself I choose to show on air is appropriate. I don't give a fuck either way. But when it comes to that, I understand that there's a bunch of normies who will look at the video and immediately dismiss it because there's a VTuber avatar on it, and so I want to avoid that. So, for now, I will talk about Candace while e-begging for money.
UWU.
Oi, oi, oi. This is true, though. Death of Death, thank you for resubscribing, even if you did it with a very strange thing. So this was a very serious thing to be taken seriously. I would kind of hope that it gets taken seriously. But we'll get to 2025 here in a second. First of all, let's get into Candace Owens, a clown that should not be taken seriously, and yet she is. This is a clip that went viral while I was gone in Yonkers and Philly, so I would have liked to have covered this sooner, but basically what we have to talk about today is Candace being anti-science.
To me, I mean, my poor husband, he rolls over, he's like, what are you reading? And I feel like a regular wife says something, I don't know, maybe a love series, Nora Roberts, sweeping her away. Me, on the other hand, he rolled over, he asked me, and I said, oh, I'm reading a flat earth theory. And it dawned into an entire conversation. He's like, why are you reading a flat earth theory? And I'm like, because somebody messaged me on Manect about it, and they included some links, and I'm just reading them. I don't know. I'm just an interested person. No matter what, if there's a bunch of people that believe something, I now want to know what it is that they believe.
Okay, that's understandable, but you're looking at a flat earth theory. I feel like there's a certain threshold where we should probably stop giving a fuck what they believe and instead accept that maybe they're kind of stupid. Like, there are some ideas that it's perfectly reasonable to not sit down at the table and go, let's talk about why you believe that, and instead go, wow, you're a stupid fucking moron. It's perfectly reasonable once you've crossed that threshold to go, all right, we don't have to wonder whether or not you believe something that has any amount of evidence. You don't. You're just kind of a moron. And when it comes to something like flat Earth, well, we have photos of the Earth. We can tell that it's round.
And of course, he pushed me on this, and he was talking about the Earth curvature and science. And I said to him, listen, I'm not a flat earther. I'm not a round earther. Actually, what I am is I am somebody who has left the cult of science.
Okay, the cult of science. That's the thing that got this clip viral everywhere. There's a 22-second version of it that was grabbed by a shit ton of people. I wanted to grab the version that had the context here. The cult of science. Now, there is a set of people, both in academia and just on the internet in general, that believe that the science always agrees with them, irrespective of what science actually says on a particular topic. And if you wanted to talk about the cults of science, maybe that's the people that you're talking about. The people who creationists lovingly call scientismers. It's a weird subset on the internet, but you see it a lot. People who've never cracked open a study in their life and yet say that the study agrees with them. I don't know if that's what Candace is talking about, though. I feel like Candace here is just talking about the scientific establishment. Also, Zozo, thank you for the hydrate and the stretch.
1 year, UWU.
And Golgari Tune, thank you for resubscribing. Golgari is, of course, one of the best color combinations in Magic the Gathering, so we'll just sit with that. Sakura, thank you for the 100 bits. And M, thank you for the posture check. I guess I'll go ahead and pop my back since I'm here doing that. Anyways. Yeah, she's not even in the light and centrist here. She just... I have left the cult of science. I would have to ask, what does I've left the cult of science mean? What is the cult of science to Candace Owens? Now, I am curious enough to... Let's see here. Let's type in cult of science and see what we get here. We get... like I mentioned... Scientism comes up. Scientism is the view that science and the scientific method are the best and only way to render truth about the world and reality, which, of course, we know that there are other ways of doing it as well. We can use philosophy to kind of ascertain moral goods, for instance. But while the term was defined originally to mean methods and attitudes typical or attributed to natural scientists, some scholars, as well as political and religious leaders, have also adopted it as a pejorative term with the meaning as exaggerated trust in the efficacy of the methods of natural science applied to all areas of investigation, as in philosophy, social sciences, and the humanities. Now, here's the thing that's weird about that. When we talk about science, we're not really just talking about the STEM fields specifically. Science is literally just a method. It is a method of ascertaining truth about the world around us through peer review and replicatable studies and stuff like that. That's what it is. It's just the study of things. Whereas philosophy is the love of knowledge, science would be the study of something, the study of the natural world, the study of, well, anything. I mean, hell, we could just go ahead and look up, if we're gonna be pedantic, we might as well look up definitions here. The systematic study of the structure of the behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, and the testing of theories against evidence obtained. Also, some people used to call it a knowledge of any kind. Science of food making, stuff like that. Again, I feel like I'm adding far more nuance to this than what Candace Owens actually thinks the cult of science is. Based on what Candace Owens has said in previous videos, I'm gonna go ahead and assume that the cult of science means the people who think trans women are women, the people who think that it's okay for trans women to exist in sports. Because we've used science to determine those things. We've used science to figure out, oh, there's all of these criteria that make somebody a woman, mental ones that have to do with their physiology, ones that have to do with their personality, ones that have to do with all these things, and several of those things end up falling into social sciences as well. And what we found is that, oh, the term woman is very arbitrary, and we can either boil it down to one thing that doesn't fucking matter, or we can accept that it's a very complicated thing that has several bits associated with it. If somebody wants to go, a woman is somebody who has a vagina, and then somebody is born with a condition that causes them to have different genitalia while still having ovaries. Then suddenly that person's not a woman, despite having everything except for one phenotypical part be the woman bits. And that makes things very complicated, so I can understand Candace not liking those things because it's easier for her when the world is simple. But that's not the scariest part about this yet. We got 10 more seconds of Candace's video, and then I'll get into the part that alarms me a little bit. But let's go into that.
I have left the mega church of science because what I have now realized is that science, what it is actually, if you think about it, is a pagan faith.
You know, I didn't realize the clip got that fucking stupid. I wasn't aware that it got that bad. Science is a pagan faith? Candace, science isn't a faith. You literally have to present evidence for your findings. You can't just say, this is how something is. These are the powers from protons on high. You don't get to do that. You can with faith. You can with just straight up belief, but you don't get to do that with science. With science, you have to actually provide some kind of evidence. I used the word bibliographical earlier, but a bibliography tends to be very important in science, where you can cite your sources for why you have a certain hypothesis. Or when you're doing a research paper on something, which is also something we would do while employing the scientific method for like certain meta-analysis. Your citations for this will all be part of the bibliography. But anyways, science isn't a faith. It's not. There are certainly people who have faith in an idea of science, the scientism people that I talked about earlier, but that doesn't make science a faith. Science in its general application is not a faith, nor is it faith-based in any quantifiable way. The only way you can get that is by strawmanning it to the nines, basically. But don't worry, the stupid doesn't quite end there, or at least the scary part of the stupid doesn't end there, because we got to talk about what Christopher Rufo said in response to this. That's where I get a little more concerned. Now, for those who don't know, Chris Rufo is the guy behind things like the panic about CRT, the current transgender panic. Whenever there is a giant conservative panic in the last 10 years, he's often an architect working in the shadows, while also talking publicly on Fox News, because, I mean, why not be brazen about it? Chris Rufo had something to say about the Candace Owens thing, and God, it's so weird that I actually kind of agree with him. But let's go ahead and take a look here. Chris Rufo says, I generally avoid intra-right conflict, but the ongoing Daily Wire Candace Owens dispute is an important moment for the right, which I believe merits comment. First, it's not a violation of free speech to let a multi-million-dollar contract expire, which is reportedly what happened. The Daily Wire is not obligated to subsidize Candace Owens' speech, especially if she is deviating from the publication's editorial standard or causing problems for the business. By Daily Wire's editorial standard, they of course mean whether or not they're saying all of the propaganda bits as they're supposed to in step and line. The Daily Wire is, of course, a rag with no actual merit outside of being an ideological think tank piece. But anywho, continuing on, Daily Wire is not an open platform such as YouTube, Facebook, X, etc., and the owners of the publication are under no obligation to subsidize someone whose trust and friendship they no longer enjoy. Owens spent months taking public shots at Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring, which is a tacit request to get canned and then play the martyr. Owens is a gifted speaker who has been able to turn controversy into attention, a valuable capability. I actually agree with him here. The scariest thing about people like Candace Owens is they can actually pass a charisma check. Continuing on, she does not advance a serious politics. She is clearly traveling down an ugly but unfortunately well-trodden path. She has rationalized Kanye West's anti-Semitic rants, speculated about Jewish gangs murdering people in Hollywood, accused Barry Weiss of being a CIA asset, and claiming that Emmanuel Macron's wife is a man. There is an audience for this kind of material. InfoWars does a robust business in vitamins and emergency prep kits, but it's a political dead end. Again, I agree, actually, with Rufo here. It sounds very weird for a lot of agreement to be coming from a dude who is ostensibly a theocratic fascist trying to run the country in a way to kill the fucking trans people. But he is actually 100% correct here. This is because Candace Owens doesn't have serious politics. Candace Owens' job is not to make the country better or try to work for a better society. Candace Owens' job is to sell you hope. It is to sell a personality to enrich herself so that you can feel better about yourself. That is what she is going for. That is what she was doing on the Daily Wire. That is what she did when she was working with PragerU. That is what she does with everything that she does. Candace's aims are to help Candace Owens. Period. For those of you who've been keeping up with the boys, this is exactly what happened with Firecracker. She literally said it herself in one of the episodes. She sells hope. To people who are disenfranchised by normal society, somebody who has the charisma to sell crazy to you makes you feel less crazy. Because somebody who's just as dumb as you is smart enough to be successful at it. So maybe you can too. Maybe it's okay to think the way you do, even if the way you think is so broken and divorced from reality, but you don't have a good barometer for that. But you do have Candace Owens. People like Alex Jones do not move the bar politically. They find a group of people willing to buy the snake oil they're selling, and they sell them the snake oil over and over and over again until the cow's teats have ran dry. This is what Candace is trying to do as well. Find the fringe. Find the people who are willing to accept that this is a pretty black woman saying the same insane horseshit they read on poll chan threads. And when they do that, suddenly she seems far more like one of the good ones, and suddenly their thoughts seem far more normal. Candace Owens is selling that idea to her people, whomever her people may end up being by the end of this. She's used the Daily Wire to elevate herself enough to where she can start doing that. Now that she's been divorced from it, she'll say whatever it takes to try to get herself more viewers, to try to get herself an established audience. And the cool thing about an audience of crazies is that they are very insulatory. Whereas a lot of content creators who don't want you to be part of a fucking cult will tell you to go outside, touch grass, go meet friends, go talk with people, go do everything in your power to meet people who are politically disenfranchised, like or dislike you, doesn't matter. Go talk to different people of different faiths, of different beliefs, of different political ideologies. People like Alex Jones would rather you stay away from them and develop an insular community. Candace is going to be going down that exact same path. It's far easier to keep an audience of nutty people if the outside world can't tell them that they are nutty. But let's continue what Rufo says. Why does this matter? Because the right faces an inflection point. There are serious people who are trying to advance a serious political movement with a vision for governing. That would be the architects behind Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation. Trump wants to say it's Agenda 47 that he's going to be working with, but we also know that several of his old staffers helped write Project 2025, so let's not kid ourselves and pretend that that's not going to be what happens. I consider the Daily Wire to be among them. And there are unserious people who are willing to sell kayfabe and conspiracy, leading us nowhere. I care about politics because I believe we have substantive work to do for the country. This requires putting together a coalition that is capable of taking responsibility. The choice is yours. Yes, a coalition capable of taking responsibility. Like Project 2025, the conservative promise, the mandate for leadership, the thing that literally talks about getting a group of thousands of Trump loyalists to be appointees, but it doesn't say the words Trump loyalists because by law they cannot specifically endorse Trump and still do what they are doing. But we'll get into that in a different video. So, while, yes, Candace Owens is quite stupid, and Candace Owens is showing everybody her ass effectively, but not in the way that OnlyFans models would want you to believe, the part that is interesting to me is actually the right's response to it. The fact that there are people in there that are recognizing that she is going to go become Alex Jones. She is going to be the next Alex Jones. As Alex's throne is currently being piecemealed away from him in order to pay for all of the families that he's hurt, that power vacuum now has a place to call home for Candace. So we'll go ahead and see what happens there. But that's all for now. That was a very, very depressing way to begin the stream, but let's be honest, it's good that we got it out of the way. She's a moron. She's selling the fact that you're not a moron through the veneer of her not sounding like a moron while being a moron. Insert end the video tagline here. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability that Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Nixie-chan, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.